Well, at this point in Escambia County, there's roughly 50% of the population.
Half, really?
Yes, who are struggling. And whether that's at poverty level or at what we call ALICE, that was the description you gave at the intro, is the asset limited income constrained employed. So these are people who are working, but who are really struggling to make ends meet, sometimes working multiple jobs. So yeah, when you combine those two, then you're looking at almost half of the households in our county, in Escambia County, who are really having a hard time making ends meet.
Welcome to the Voices United in Education podcast. Each week, we showcase the teachers, administrators, and community members who go the extra mile to contribute to the success of every student in Escambia County. You'll meet the real people behind the titles and learn about the amazing resources to support every student's success. Most Americans can't cover a $400 emergency. For some families in Escambia County, that statistic is felt even more sharply by low median incomes and rising housing costs. Others find themselves in the squeezed middle, too much income to qualify for assistance, but dangerously close to financial emergency. Setting kids up for success with quality education can help end the cycle, but how do you learn if you can't always afford the tools? My next guests are helping bridge the gap with school supplies through an event called Stuff the Bus. They are the coordinator of student services for Escambia County Schools and the president of United Way West Florida. Today, they're going to share why Stuff the Bus is more than a feel-good event for those involved and how you can both give and receive for student success. Uniting to listen, partnering to respond, Escambia County Public Schools and United Way Tag Team, Chris McFarland and Laura Gilliam. Thanks y'all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So Chris, you're the coordinator of student services for the county, but you also used to teach at Pensacola High School. How common is it for kids not to have what they need for school?
So it actually is very surprising that a lot of students need some support and help with school supplies. I was at Pensacola High School for several years, but we also have a lot of our elementary and middle schools as well that have that need. And what's very important about Stuff the Bus is United Way is doing a great job of bringing the community and the school district together to make this happen for our students. And we're very grateful for that.
And Laura, you're the president and CEO of United Way West Florida. You've been in Escambia County for about 6 years now. How many families are fitting into that squeezed middle category?
Well, at this point in Escambia County, there's roughly 50% of the population.
Half, really?
Yes, who are struggling. And whether that's at poverty level or at what we call ALICE, that was the description you gave at the intro, is the asset limited income constrained employed. So these are people who are working, but who are really struggling to make ends meet, sometimes working multiple jobs. So yeah, when you combine those two, then you're looking at almost half of the households in our county, in Escambia County, who are really having a hard time making ends meet.
And aside from the obvious solution of providing these supplies, what problem do you see Stuff the Bus solving community-wide?
Well, I think it's a good reminder to all of us that it's important to all of us for children to be successful. I think it's also the reminder that this is helpful to make sure that these kids are successful by getting them the tools that they need, but they're also part of households that need support. And so we need to make sure that we have those support networks and those programs in the community to lift them up, to meet their needs when they're struggling.
It also creates an awareness. So when we're standing in front of those Walmarts during that July 25th date, which is only 2 weeks before school starts, so many of the individuals that come in and out of Walmart are like, oh, is school about to start? How can I help? So you're bringing the community in and giving them the awareness that we're all in this together. It's not just about the parent of the student, but the entire community can be involved in making sure that the students are successful. And that's the type of feedback we get when we're in front of the Walmarts.
I think knowing that a large percentage of that 50% that you talked about, Laura, are ALICE families really opens up, I think, a part of the conversation that might have been closed before. You know, families that maybe wouldn't have felt inclined to donate or contribute kind of can relate to having, just enough or barely enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's often a misperception that the families that are struggling are the ones where people aren't working and who are accessing public benefits. And the reality is that, again, out of that nearly 50%, the larger percentage, about 30%, are the folks who are working. And so, and they don't make enough money to receive assistance. Their income is just over the threshold. So they're really kind of stuck in that messy middle. And so, yeah, this is a reminder that something as simple as a pack of paper or some pens and pencils, which don't cost very much, could make a huge difference.
I wonder if it has a positive impact on the outlook of education on behalf of the young person, because when you talk about 30% of the 50 are Alice families, I remember we were an Alice family, and I remember my parents stressing out about what was the calculator in the 90s, the graphing calculator that was so expensive?
Texas Instant, right?
The Texas Instant. My mom was flipping her lid. She was like, well, I don't understand why you need this thing. And it made me equate school with stress and with a burden. Education is a burden. And so there was that psychological component. You've worked with students, Chris. Have you witnessed any of that similar connection with the students that you had?
We did. So when I was in the classroom, which has been several years ago, we did definitely see where kids were coming to school stressed or coming to school without. And our role was to make sure that they felt comfortable, they had everything they needed, because we don't want that to be a place of stress, because if they can just focus on why they're there and not have to worry about all those outside integers, then they're more successful. And the other important piece of Stuff the Bus is it doesn't always just benefit the student. United Way has many business partners that come in and make cash donations. We also have the tools for teachers. So we have art teachers and computer-based teachers who are also reaching out, asking for materials for their classroom, which we are providing. We get a lot of requests from art teachers who need supplies for their students, and we provide those through Stuff the Bus and through tools for teachers.
What do you feel like people misunderstand about this event or about the invitation to contribute?
Sometimes they think it takes a lot, to make a difference. So like I said, that they have to give hundreds of dollars or a shopping cart full of supplies. I think the other is that somehow they need to have a child or a grandchild in school to give. And that's that it's not going to make a difference, or it's not important for me to do that if I don't have a child in school. I mean, we've actually had people say, well, I don't have a child here, and so, I don't need to do this. Well, if you are in a business, you want to have employees who are a group of employees who are coming up and who are educated and successful, because that's going to be your pool that you're going to choose from. And so it's important to all of us that kids are successful, regardless of whether we have a child or a grandchild in school. As a community, we need to be concerned about how these children are getting through and what their experience is and if they're graduating from high school.
Tell me more about the collaboration between Escambia Public Schools and United Way. What does that look like behind the scenes?
Well, from a Stuff the Bus standpoint, this has been going on for a really long time. And so that's, that it's kind of evolved, I think, over the years. We all kind of come to the table with our areas of expertise. And so we map out the plans with the Walmarts and we recruit the volunteers, but they also provide volunteers as well and get their teachers and their school bus drivers. I mean, the bus drivers are key. They're there all day long, helping to literally stuff the buses. Mm-hmm. And so that's critically important. The school district has, from our standpoint at United Way, they've always generally had somebody on our board of directors. So there's always been that relationship as well. There's other areas that we've partnered over the years with the school district, because education is one of our priorities. Education, income, and financial stability. And so that's been critically important because, again, we know what a difference that makes in people's lives and for the community as a whole.
So as part of the partnership, we not only do Stuff the Bus, but we also participate in Day of Caring, which is another large event hosted by United Way. Many of our schools submit projects, and United Way sends volunteer groups to those schools to do those projects. United Way also has a call center called 211, and the school district provides information to the 211 call center. So when families call in, whether it's an educational need or it's a just daily living need, their electricity got turned off, they got evicted from their house, whatever, 211 is helping those families match with resources. And some of those resources are school resources. So we provide information to the 211 call center. We also provide grants. United Way, the grants that Laura had mentioned, many of those grants go to education centers. Some of those are ours, some are charter schools, some are GED programs, but education is impacted through their grant process as well. So we're very grateful for that. Our district also does a United Way giving campaign where we give back to United Way. So every October, our employees are also donating through payroll deduction to give back to United Way for all the things that they're doing for us.
Wow. Yeah, it's a great partnership. And so, yeah, I'm glad you filled all that in.
It's a perfect example of the partnership.
Yes, it is. It is. And I think to add to the 211 piece, that's really important for people to pick up from here and to remember that's also an entry point for 988, which is the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And I know that's a really important resource, not just for adults, but for young people as well. And so I think that's actually going to be kind of an expanded partnership as well. But that's an important phone number to remember and also can be accessed through 211. But
Hadn't heard of that one. So dial 988.
Just 988. It's a Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They'll talk to one of our staff members at United Way who's trained to work with them on their mental health crisis. If they need to pass it on to somebody else, they will. But generally, most of the crises that come through, the calls that come through, are resolved with that conversation with a staff member.
Wow.
But you can get to it through 211. So if you just remember 211, that'll get you access to the emergency assistance, to mental health, and to veteran support. So it's a good resource.
And do you need to be the person needing to receive the support in order to dial 211, or can you dial 211 on behalf of someone else in need?
You can dial 211 on behalf of someone else in need. I mean, the person may need to get on the phone eventually, but we have calls from out of state calling to say, my mom lives in Pensacola and I'm looking for help with this, this, and this. So often the inquiry will start with somebody else. And so that's perfectly fine.
I like how that's a great way to leverage the resources that are in the community already. I see lots of Facebook posts of people saying, hey, I just met a mom who, was evicted. She's got 3 kids and here's a list of what they need. And I love that they're doing that, but it's a lot of heavy lifting. And I think the probability for burnout for someone who does that just a few times is pretty high. So to be able to plug that family into a sustainably sourced resources is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it reduces the number of calls that person's going to have to make. It means that the calls that they do make to connect with the resources are going to be more likely to help them because they're just some simple questions that the call specialist will ask to just make sure that they're directing them to the right place. So yeah, it's a great resource. We actually serve 10 counties. So it's Northwest Panhandle. Our United Way serves Escambia and Santa Rosa, but 211 and 988 and the Veteran Support Line are 10 county area. But yeah, so thank you, Chris, for reminding us that exists because it's a significant support system for our community.
Well, and how cool is it that, to y'all's point about you're coming out of a Walmart, one of 6, and these are some of the resources that you may learn about through these conversations. So it's not just about we're putting school supplies in a bus and yay, the news is here. Because I think from the outside, that's an easy impression to get. Like, okay, there's a big school bus. It used to be parked at Cordova Mall parking lot, and that's when I would see it, right? And Cat 103 was there. But now it's in front of the Walmarts because that is greater utility, I imagine, for donations. So walk me through the details of the when and the where and what it looks like and how people can, in a practical sense, participate.
Sure.
So for Escambia County, we'll be at 3 Walmarts on Blue Angel Highway, Mobile Highway, and Creighton Road. And we'll have a school bus at each of those locations. United Way will have a tent at each of those locations. And as the customers go into Walmart, we'll be handing them a flyer with the most needed items as well as information about Stuff the Bus. And then as they come out, there'll be boxes that they can drop their donations into. So we have volunteers from the school district, from Navy Federal, from all over who are volunteering to stand at those doors. And then we have football players who are going to organize and box everything up. And then we'll have the bus drivers there with the buses and the vans. And that will be on July 25th. I think, is it from 6 to 6?
Yeah. It's from 6 to 6 at all the Walmarts, except we are doing it in Santa Rosa County as well. So we'll be at Pea Ridge and Milton, Navarre, and Tiger Point. The Navarre is the only one that runs from 8 to 6, but the rest of them are 6A to 6P.
Channel 3 will do remotes from Mobile Highway. So they'll remote in on all their broadcasts from Mobile Highway. And then they'll also have business partners come to do check presentations. So many of our large corporations like Navy Federal, Florida Power and Light, the Escambia County Foundation, I'm sure there's Santa Rosa business partners as well, that will do check presentations, and United Way will deliver that cash to the 2 school districts. And we'll use that to supplement what was collected to make sure that each school gets what they need. It's also important for families to know they just reach out directly to the school. We get a lot of calls at the district office on how they pick up supplies, but all the supplies they're done directly at the school. So all they have to do is reach out to their school. Every school has a school supply closet. And if there's not the item in there that the student needs, they know to reach out to me and I'll get them the items that they need.
So there's plenty is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, I think parents, I feel so bad because they're probably, I can only imagine the mind of a parent juggling all the deadlines and the lists and the checklists and what you need and where you got to be at what day. If they feel like they miss the event or they miss like school's already started a couple months in, I mean, is that okay?
Yeah, we pass out supplies all during the year. It's not just when school starts. So every school has a school supply closet and they pass things out all during the year. It's not just at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think Chris mentioned the partners, the business partners who donate. We've also got partners that are collecting supplies. So they are using their location to encourage their employees to contribute, and then they'll drop those off either at the school district or they'll bring them by one of the Walmarts. Some of them, we've had credit unions in the past that have acted as a collection site. And so not just their employees, but people who are coming in, if it's difficult, if they're not going to be able to make it out to a Walmart, they can drop that in. And so that information is on our website. And then we have some of those business partners are also providing volunteers because it takes a lot of, 6A to 6P is a long time. And we're generally covering 2 doors and we want, a few people to be there at each one. So the school districts, both school districts generally have students who help out. We have business partners, United Way staff, and other volunteers. So we're still recruiting volunteers, and it's just, it's a couple of hours to hand out the lists and to meet some friends, make some friends, and help out the students.
And there's, you said student volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea because if a student is trying to increase their volunteer hours, better to do that before the craziness of school starts. I'm thinking like, a parent would be like, yes, I'm going to park you in front of the Walmart. Mom's going to go in and do, get a haircut or whatever. And then I'll come out and you will have 2.5 hours of volunteer time. That's smart. I love that.
Yes, that happens. And it's also can give those students a little perspective on what it's like for other families. And, that this is what they're doing. And so I think that some of those conversations are taking place as well as to, why are you out here? What is happening, today? Why are we doing this? So I also just want to make sure, too, to kind of go back and emphasize something that Chris said. Those lists, there's a list for Escambia County schools and a list for Santa Rosa County schools. And the collections at each of the Walmarts go to the counties, depending on where the Walmarts are. Those lists are derived from conversations with the school district. So it's not United Way making up, we think that this is what they need. That's another part of the partnership is to make sure that they are sending us what it is that the students need so that that's what we're collecting, not something that's not going to be helpful.
I love that.
I survey all the schools. I ask them, what do they have left in their closet? What do they have a high need for? Many of them want backpacks, pencils, pens. The elementaries are looking for crayons, art type supplies. So we know what each school needs, and it typically gives out. And so we try to monitor that at the district level to make sure they have what they need. And then I have a little Google form where they can request things, because sometimes they get random requests, like for the calculator for calculus. And so there's a Google form where they can request those specific type of items.
Is there a way for families who just want to donate cash to do that, or is it supplies only?
No, they can go to our website and donate. They can swing by. We have people who are just kind of drive by, honk, and
throw cash at you.
Yeah, throw cash at us. And so that's definitely a way to give as well. So yeah, we have a lot of people who do that. So that's a great way to give the money to each of the school districts that we collect, and they've got buying power, so they can buy in wholesale, and so that's also something to consider as well, is that they can get kind of more money than if we were trying to go through a wish list online or something like that.
I love this, but this creates such buy-in from the community, and there's the visibility part, like you said, not just for the parents, the community members, the business owners, but also for the peers, for other students. And that really creates that heightened sense of humanity, I think. So that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this. Before we wrap, tell me the websites and resources one last time so that it'll be top of mind for the folks listening.
Sure. So if you go to uwwf.org, there will be information on there about Stuff the Bus. There's a volunteer button. So anybody who's interested in volunteering can click that, and that will take them into a platform where they can register either themselves or a group of people. So that's the best source to connect with the project.
Perfect.
At the district level, we have a community involvement office, and their number is 850-469-5675. They can also reach out to me at the Enrollment Services office as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for doing this. This is great.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and share. Voices United in Education is a production of Escambia County Public Schools.